So in the previous lecture, you learned about basic structure of a website, and now you have some idea about boilerplate template. Now, right now, I have created this web dev bootcamp folder, and inside this folder, I have created an index.html file. You can create an HTML file in your VS Code itself, or you can right click and then you can select to create a new text document. The only difference is that this time you'll save your file as HTML instead of .txt. So you can just change that .txt to HTML. Now there are three ways, as we discussed earlier. The first one is you search over here VS Code. You then browse your folder where you want your files to be saved, or else you can just go to your file location first and then you can right click and select to open with VS Code, or else you can hold your shift key and then you can right click. You'll get an option to open your Windows PowerShell. Once that Windows PowerShell terminal opens up, it will be blue in screen. You can type the code space dot. Once the VS Code opens up, we'll have a file. If you don't have any file, you can just create over here. Since I've created this and I've my boilerplate template in front of my screen, we'll just discuss again about some things which I've already explained. So doc type is nothing but the type of a document. There can be HTML, XML, and HTML documents. We have lang is equal to en. That stands for the HTML language which we are going to use is English. We have head tags, body tags, and HTML tags. Every tag in HTML has an opening tag and a closing tag. The closing tags have slash. Okay, now inside these head tags, we have meta tags and we have title tags. Now this meta tag, particularly char set UTF-8. Now you might wonder what is it. So char set UTF is Unicode transformation format which is used to encode and it allows electronic communication. Now this viewport meta tag is the area of window in which web content can be seen. All the elements adapts web pages to the screen's length and width so that the mobile browsers can display entire content correctly. Then we have this IE is equal to edge. Now this is the highest compatibility of a browser to run this web page. The IE is nothing but Internet Explorer, which has now been updated to Edge. Microsoft has now published Edge, but most of the developers use Google Chrome while developing websites because they face many issues when using Internet Explorer browser or Edge. So in this entire course, we will use Google Chrome to view all our websites. Now we have our title tag. Inside this title tag, between these tags, you can change the title of your web page. So instead of document, let's say I want to name my website as test website. So I can change the name of my website and I'll save my file by pressing Ctrl S. Then inside this head tag, we can also embed CSS files and we can also embed JavaScript files. So how do we do that? First of all, we can write link CSS. Now, let's say if you already have a CSS file created in your folder or a directory, let's say over here, I'll create a CSS file and I'll name this as design.css. CSS is the file extension. Now, if I want to embed this, right now, it doesn't have anything. It has no CSS elements, but let's say I just want to embed this blank file to my index.html file. So how will I be able to do that? So inside this href and in between these double inverted commas, we'll write or we'll browse our design.css file. So I'll just write design, and since both of these files are in the same folder, you are seeing design.css. Correct? Now let's say I'll create a folder inside this web dev bootcamp folder. and I'll name this as test folder. And inside this test folder, see, as you can see, the arrow has changed. This means that right now you are in web dev bootcamp, but once this icon changes and the arrow is downward facing, that means now you are accessing all the files which are inside the test folder. Now, since we don't have any files right now in our test folder, you are seeing nothing, and the design index files which are part of web dev bootcamp folders. So inside this folder, I'll create, let's say, style.css. Okay, again, this is an empty CSS file, and now I want to embed this style.css instead of design.css. So if I remove this and I'll write style.css, then I won't get any predictions. Why? Because style.css is present inside this test folder and it is not present globally. Correct? Now, to locate this, what I'll do, I'll just enter slash, and then you can see I would say test slash style.css. So we'll name our folder, then we'll put a slash forward slash and then our file name. So this is a way to embed your style sheet, external style sheet. Now to embed your external JavaScript file, we'll need to type script script:/src. Let's say I'll write script.js, but we don't have any script files like script.js. Then what will happen? Or let's say you want to create a file, but there's a shortcut to do that. So you can just hold a control key and then you can click this script.js, and this prompt will come that unable to open script.js. Instead, you can just create a file, and now this JavaScript file has been created. Very easy. This shortcut feature is also available with creating CSS files. So let's say I'll erase this and I'll put link CSS and I'll control click. Now this style.css has been created outside this test folder, and there is another style.css inside this test folder. So as you can see over here, we have test over here. That means that this style.css file is present inside our test folder, and this is present globally. This is present inside our web dev bootcamp, and it can be accessed, right? Now, coming back to our topic, that is comments and some of the best practices that we web developers use. So what are these? So first of all, which I discussed, that we can create any file instantly by holding the control key, and then you can click on your mouse left button and a new file will be created. Then let us understand what are comments. So I'll just start writing that this is my first website. Then I am super excited to develop websites. Okay. Now let's say I want to enter some text which is only for my reference. Let's say in a book, you have this habit of maintaining notes. Inside a textbook, you generally write notes for your better understanding, and you want to do the same thing in your HTML file as well. So how can you do that? Is there any way? Yes, there is. Let's say I am explaining to myself that this is not a correct way to make comment. Now let's see what happens if I save my file and I'll open with live server. Then you can see that this line has also been displayed in our web page. But you might argue that this is not present inside any HTML tag. Then how is this possible? It is because HTML will consider any text which is present in the body tag. and it will simply display on your web page. So if you want something which cannot be processed or which cannot be read by the compiler and you want it for your reference only, so what you can do is you can comment. So to make a comment in HTML, you have to put an angular bracket, then you'll need to put an exclamation mark, double hyphen. See, all these things have been turned green. The green text means that this is a comment, and there is a ending tag as well for comment. Otherwise, everything after this will be considered as a comment and will not be executed by the compiler. So the ending tag of comment is double hyphen and then closing angular bracket. So only this line of code, and this is a correct way to make a comment. I'll just save this, Control S, and this is a correct way to make comment. Let's go to our web browser, and we can't see this line to be printed. Perfect. Now there's a shortcut way to create comments as well. Now there's a shortcut way where you can hold Control key and then you can press the slash key, which will toggle between comment and uncomment. So let me show you. In this gear icon, I'll just go to command palette and then I'll type toggle screencast mode. So now you'll be able to see what keys I'm pressing. So as you saw a minute ago or a second ago, I pressed Control S to save my file. Now to comment this, I'm holding my Control key and then slash key. So now I have commented and now I can toggle again. Perfect.